I'm honored and happy and very pleased to be here. You know, I didn't grow up in a big city like East St. Louis. I didn't grow up in a big city like Chicago or Atlanta or New York or Washington. I grew up in rural Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery, outside of a little town called Troy. My father was a sharecropper, a tenny farmer. But back in 1944, when I was 4 years old, and I do remember when I was 4. Now, no, I'm not going to preach to you because you have the bishop here, you had a pastor of this great church, but I may just do a little preaching. When I was growing up on that farm and would visit the little town of Troy, visit Montgomery, visit Tuskegee, visit Birmingham, I saw those signs that said, white men, colored men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. And my fraternity brothers, I know you're here and thank you. I would ask my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why? Why? And they was, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way. Don't get in trouble. But one day in 1955, I heard the words of Martin Luther King Jr. on the radio. Heard about Rosa Parks, and I was inspired to get in trouble, what I call good trouble and necessary trouble. It's time for each and every one of you to go to the polls 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks from today, right? And get in trouble, good trouble and necessary trouble. And vote for my friend, Brendan Kelly. When I was growing up on that farm, raising cotton, picking cotton, gathering peanuts, pulling corn, I fell in love with raising chicken. Any of you know anything about raising chicken? Don't fool me, you don't know anything about raising chicken. I love raising chickens. And from time to time, with the help of my brothers and sisters and my first cousins, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard. And my first cousins and sisters and brothers were lying the outside of the chicken yard. And Brother Pastor, I wanted to be a minister. And one of my uncles had Santa Claus to bring me a Bible. And I learned to read the Bible, and I started preaching to the chickens. And when I look back on it, some of these chickens would bow their heads. Some of these chickens would shake their heads. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced that some of those chickens that I preached to in the 40s and the 50s tended to listen to me much better than some of my colleagues listen to me today in the Congress. And some of those chickens were just a little more productive. At least they produce eggs. But that's enough of that. Sometime I would be out there working in the field, picking cotton, gathering peanuts, pulling corn, and my mother would say, boy, you're falling behind. You need to catch up. And I would say, this is hard work. And she would say, hard work never kill anybody. I said, well, it's about to kill me. So when I was a little child, I wrote a letter to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1957, when I was only 17 years old. He wrote me back and sent me a round-trip Greyhound bus ticket and invited me to come to Montgomery to meet with him. I attended a little school called Troy State College, now known as Troy University. Well, I wasn't accepted at the school. I went off to school in Nashville. And it was there that I got involved in the sit-ins, the Freedom Ride, and came to Cairo in 1962, 22 years old, had all of my hair and a few pounds later. And when people tell me nothing has changed, I feel like saying, come and walk in my shoes. The signs that I saw when I was growing up, they're saying white men, colored men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. Those signs are gone, and they will not return. The only place that we will see those signs today will be in a book, in a museum, or on a video. But there are forces in America today trying to take us back to another time and another place. And we're not going back, we're going forward. And with Congressman Kelly in the Congress, We will go much further down that road to create what Dr. King called a beloved community and redeem the soul of America. Because in the final analysis, we are one people, we are one family, we all live in the same house, the American house or the world house. So it doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American. We are one people. So we got to go to the polls and vote like one. We got to save our country, save our democracy, not for ourselves, but for our children and their children and for generations yet unborn. We can do it. If we don't do it now, who will do it? More than 2 years ago, a group of us, almost 8 members of Congress, more than 200 private citizens, were trying to get the Speaker of the House, the former Speaker of the House, to bring forth a comprehensive immigration reform bill. If he had brought that bill forth, every single Democratic member, maybe except 1 or 2, would have voted for it. Enough Republican members would have crossed over and voted. We would have passed it and signed it into law by President Barack Obama. It doesn't make sense for us to say that some people cannot come to our country. When the Pope came and spoke to a joint session of the Congress, he said, we all are immigrants. We all come from some other place. It made me cry when I saw little children, little babies being separated from their mothers and fathers. That's not right, that's not fair, that's not just, and history will not be kind to us. We have to do what is right, do what is fair. So I said to you, look, Brenda Kelly mentioned the fact that I crossed the bridge, but there were 600 of us. 600 children of God on a Sunday afternoon left a little church called the Brown Chapel AME Church. I was wearing a backpack before it became fashionable to wear backpacks. In this backpack, I had 2 books. I wanted to have something to read if I were going to go to jail. I had 1 apple and 1 orange in that backpack. I wanted something to eat. Since I was going to be in jail with my friends and colleagues, I had toothpaste and a toothbrush. I wanted to be able to brush my teeth. We were walking in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion. We continued to walk. There was a man by the name of Major John Cloud who said this is an unlawful march, but not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your homes or to your church. A young man walking beside me on Dr. King's staff named Jose William said, Major, give us a moment to kneel and pray. And again, the Major said, troopers advance. I said, Major, may I have a word? He said, there will be no word. You saw these guys putting on their gas masks. They came toward us, beating us with nightsticks and bullwhips and trampling us with horses and releasing the tear gas. I was the first one to be hit with a nightstick. I went down on my knees. I thought I saw death. I thought I was going to die. All these many years later, I don't recall how I made it back across that bridge to a little church. But I remember being back at the church. Someone asked me to say something, and I stood up and said something like, I don't understand how President Johnson can send troops to Vietnam and cannot send troops to Selma, Alabama to protect people who only desires to register to vote. And the next thing I knew, I had been admitted to a little hospital called the Good Samaritan Hospital, operated by a group of nuns. It was these nuns, only one African American and the rest are white, They took care of us. If it hadn't been for these nuns, some of us probably would have died. 17 of us are seriously hurt. On that Monday morning, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came by to visit us. And he said, John, don't worry. I made a request for religious leaders to come to Selma. And more than 1,000 priests, rabbis, and nuns, and pastors, ministers of the gospels, bishops came. And 2 days later, they marched across the bridge and prayed. But because of what happened, President Lyndon Johnson made one of the most moving speeches on the right to vote. He closed that speech that night by saying, and we shall overcome. The first time an American president had used the phrase, and we shall overcome. We have the right to vote all across America. Some people are trying to take it away from us, make it harder and more difficult. But we cannot give up. We cannot give in. We cannot become bitter or hostile. We must keep the faith, and we must keep our eyes on the prize by going to the polls and voting. We cannot say, we got to do it. There were 3 civil rights workers that I knew. 2 young white men and 1 young black man. Andy Goodman, Mickey Schwerner, and James Shaney went out to investigate the burning of an African-American church in Mississippi. They were stopped by the sheriff, arrested, taken to jail, taken out of the jail, turned over to the Klan, where they were beaten, shot, murdered, and their bodies were discovered 6 weeks later, buried under a mound of dirt. You won't get shot today for trying to vote, I hope. You won't be arrested, I hope, for trying to vote. So let's get up. Let's do it. Not just for ourselves, but for our children and their children, if a generation yet unborn. Do it for our nation. Let's do it. Go to the polls and vote. Do it. Can we do it? Let's do it.